Your soulmate is happier than ever. You finally did the one thing they secretly needed. My beloved child, something has shifted quietly, and the person connected to your heart can feel it more deeply than you realize. This happiness surrounding your soulmate did not appear because everything suddenly became perfect. It appeared because you finally did the one thing they had secretly been hoping for. And here is the surprising part: they may never have directly asked you for it. They may never have found the right words. Yet somewhere beneath every conversation, every unanswered question, and every moment of uncertainty, there was one simple need waiting to be understood. Stay a little longer, because what that need actually was may not be what you expect. For a long time, your soulmate was not searching for a grand gesture. They were not waiting for you to prove yourself through something dramatic. What they secretly needed was much quieter. They needed to feel that your connection could breathe without being forced. And recently, something in you changed. Perhaps you stopped chasing every unanswered question. Perhaps you stopped trying to control exactly when everything should happen. Perhaps you began trusting your own path instead of measuring your happiness by another person's actions. Whatever form it took, your energy became calmer, more certain, more complete. And strangely, that is exactly what opened a new door between you. What if the moment you stopped trying to make everything happen was the moment they finally felt safe enough to imagine what could happen naturally? There is another layer to this. Don't rush past it. Your soulmate's happiness is not simply about receiving attention from you. It is connected to seeing you become stronger within yourself. Somewhere inside them was a quiet wish: I hope they choose themselves too. They wanted to know that the person they cared about could still dream, grow, laugh, create, and move forward without losing themselves inside the connection. And now they are beginning to sense exactly that. You are no longer standing at the same emotional doorway asking when something will arrive. You are becoming someone who can welcome the future without being controlled by it. That difference may seem small from the outside, but emotionally, it changes everything. And this is where the story becomes unexpected. Because your soulmate may now be looking at you differently. Not because you transformed into somebody else, but because you finally revealed something that was always there: your ability to care deeply while still respecting yourself. Your ability to remain open without demanding certainty every second. Your ability to let connection grow instead of squeezing it into a deadline. That was the one thing they secretly needed. They needed space to recognize their own feelings while knowing that your world would continue shining. And now that they can feel this shift, something inside them is becoming lighter. But wait, there is one detail you haven't heard yet. Their happiness may be hiding a realization much bigger than relief. Because once someone sees that you are no longer waiting for them to complete your story, they begin asking themselves a powerful question. What if I want to become part of that story before the next chapter begins without me? That question changes the atmosphere. It turns hesitation into reflection. It turns distance into curiosity. And sometimes, curiosity becomes intention. So stay till the end of this journey, because this is only the first signal. Something huge is waiting beyond this turning point, not because destiny removes your choices, but because your choices have changed the direction of what comes next. Your soulmate is happier than ever because you finally gave them something they could never demand from you, the freedom to come closer without becoming responsible for your entire happiness. And what they may choose to do with that freedom next, is where everything becomes far more interesting. Something unusual is happening beneath the surface now, and your soulmate may be discovering a truth they never expected to face. The freedom you gave them did not create more distance. It revealed how much the connection actually matters to them. For the first time, they can separate genuine feeling from pressure, imagination from expectation, and what they truly want from what they once thought they were supposed to want. And the answer emerging inside them is surprisingly clear. They miss the version of this connection that felt effortless, honest, and alive. Stay a little longer, because the next realization changes the meaning of their happiness completely. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that the one thing they secretly needed was never endless reassurance. It was emotional clarity. They needed to know that they could move toward you because they genuinely wanted to, not because they were being pulled by urgency. And when you became calmer within yourself, something remarkable happened. The noise disappeared. Suddenly, they could hear their own feelings. Imagine standing inside a crowded room where everyone is speaking at once, and then, without warning, everything becomes quiet. One voice remains. That is what this shift may feel like to them. And that remaining voice keeps bringing their attention back toward you. But there is an even deeper reason they seem happier now. They are seeing possibility where they once saw uncertainty. Before, they may have wondered whether this connection could survive questions, timing, change, and personal growth. Now they are beginning to see that something meaningful does not have to be constantly proven to remain meaningful. Don't skip this thought, because it is the doorway to everything that follows. Sometimes the strongest connection is the one that gives two people enough room to choose each other freely. And that is exactly what you have begun creating. Perhaps they are remembering little things differently now. A conversation that seemed ordinary suddenly carries another meaning. A moment of kindness returns to their thoughts unexpectedly. Something you said weeks or months ago suddenly makes sense. Not because the past has changed, but because their perspective has. And once perspective changes, memories rearrange themselves. The pieces that seem disconnected begin forming a picture. Your soulmate may be realizing that you were offering something valuable all along, something deeper than attention. You were offering understanding. And here comes the twist. Their happiness may actually be accompanied by anticipation. They are not simply enjoying this new emotional freedom. They may be wondering what happens if they step forward now. What would a conversation feel like without old expectations? What would happen if they became more honest? What if both of you met each other from a stronger place than before? Those questions are no longer creating confusion. They are creating curiosity about the future. If this message feels meaningful to you, you can share it with someone who might need the same perspective. Leave your thoughts below, or subscribe and continue this journey with us. Because there is another layer still waiting to be uncovered. Your soulmate has now received what they secretly needed. Room to understand their own heart. But that was only the beginning. The real turning point arrives when someone stops asking, "How do I feel?" and starts asking, "What am I going to do about it?" And your soulmate may be approaching that question sooner than anyone expected. Now comes the moment almost no one sees approaching. The quiet happiness inside your soulmate is beginning to turn into a decision. Until now, they could observe, remember, wonder, and imagine. But feelings eventually reach a point where simply thinking about them is no longer enough. Your soulmate may be arriving at that threshold now. Something about the way you have changed has made them reconsider what they truly want from this connection. Not because you persuaded them. Not because you chased an answer. The opposite happened. You became more grounded in your own direction, and suddenly they could see you without the fog of expectation. Wait till the final moment of this message, because one realization is beginning to stand above all the others. They are recognizing that what they secretly needed from you was never perfection. They needed authenticity. They needed to see whether you could remain true to yourself even when the future wasn't completely clear. And you did. You kept becoming. You kept learning. You kept building your own inner certainty. That has created something powerful between you, respect. And respect changes the entire meaning of attraction and connection. When someone respects who you are becoming, they stop seeing you merely as part of a beautiful possibility. They begin imagining what it would actually mean to build something meaningful beside you. Can you feel how different that is? One is a dream. The other is intention. Here is the surprising part: your soulmate may now be noticing qualities they previously overlooked. Your patience carries a different meaning. Your independence feels different. Even your silence may communicate something they could not understand before. It says, "I care, but I am still moving forward." That message can be powerful because it leaves no demand hidden inside it. It allows another person to make an authentic choice. And your soulmate's growing happiness may come from realizing that the door between you was never locked. They simply needed enough clarity to understand whether they truly wanted to walk through it. But don't skip what comes next. There may be another reason their emotions feel lighter. They are beginning to imagine you not as someone waiting at the end of their uncertainty, but as someone moving toward an exciting future of your own. Suddenly, time feels different. Possibility feels more valuable. They may realize that meaningful connections cannot be placed on an invisible shelf and expected to remain unchanged forever. People grow. Circumstances move. New chapters begin. And that realization can awaken something stronger than curiosity: initiative. Picture this, not as a prediction, but as a possibility beginning to form. Your soulmate thinks about reaching out differently. Speaking more clearly. Showing appreciation instead of assuming you already know. Maybe they begin considering how to create consistency instead of leaving everything to chance. The important change isn't the exact action. It is the mindset behind it. They are moving from passive wondering toward conscious choice. And before you go, hear this carefully: the greatest transformation may not actually be happening inside your soulmate. It may be happening inside you. You finally stopped believing that someone else's decision determines the value of your journey. You became the person who can welcome connection without abandoning your own direction. That was the hidden key. That was the thing they secretly needed to witness. And now your soulmate's happiness is revealing something even bigger. They may finally understand that choosing you cannot simply mean receiving your love. It means being ready to meet you with the same clarity, effort, and freedom you have learned to give. What happens when that understanding becomes action? That is where the next chapter truly begins, but the next shift is even more unexpected, because your soulmate may no longer be asking whether this connection matters. They may be asking how to protect what makes it meaningful. That is a completely different question. It means their happiness is beginning to carry responsibility, not pressure, but awareness. They are seeing that something genuine cannot grow through assumptions alone. It needs presence, consistency, mutual respect. And perhaps for the first time, they are imagining what it would look like to offer those things instead of simply hoping everything somehow works itself out. Stay close to this moment, because the one thing you finally did has awakened a second realization inside them. You gave them room without disappearing into bitterness. You allowed uncertainty without allowing it to define your worth. And that balance showed them something they may have secretly needed more than reassurance, evidence that this connection could become healthier, calmer, and more honest than either of you previously imagined. Think about that. Sometimes people do not hesitate because they feel nothing. Sometimes they hesitate because they cannot picture what comes after the feelings. What happens when ordinary days arrive? What happens when two different dreams need space beside each other? What happens when excitement becomes something deeper and steadier? Your transformation has quietly answered part of that question. You have shown that closeness does not have to mean losing individuality. And now another thought may be entering your soulmate's mind: if they have grown this much, then I must grow too. That is where everything changes. Because meaningful connection cannot remain one person's transformation while the other person simply watches. Eventually, both people have to arrive with something real. Your soulmate may be realizing that happiness is not enough. Admiration is not enough. Even strong feelings are not enough without intentional action. They may need to become clearer in their communication, more consistent with their presence, and more courageous about expressing what they genuinely want. Don't skip this turning point. The secret need you fulfilled may now be inspiring them to become capable of giving something equally valuable back. And perhaps that is why their happiness feels different now. It isn't the temporary excitement of receiving attention. It is the deeper relief of recognizing possibility. They can imagine two people standing beside each other without either one becoming smaller. Two futures moving forward and discovering where they naturally intersect. Two people choosing rather than chasing. That picture is powerful because it doesn't require either person to surrender their identity. It asks for something better: partnership built from freedom. If these words have given you a new perspective, you can share this message, leave your thoughts in the comments, or subscribe so you can continue exploring what this journey reveals. Sometimes one idea reaches someone at exactly the moment they need to hear it. Now listen carefully, because the final shift is beginning. Your soulmate may have spent a long time believing they needed certainty before taking meaningful action. But certainty rarely arrives first. Sometimes clarity grows after someone chooses to communicate, to show up, to ask the question they have been avoiding, or simply to become more honest about what they feel. And your change has shown them something unforgettable. They don't need you to stand still while they decide. They need to decide whether they are ready to move forward beside you. That realization could be the reason they are happier than ever, because what once felt complicated suddenly looks remarkably simple. The next chapter does not require perfection. It requires two people willing to choose it. And what your soulmate may be preparing to choose next could change the entire direction of this connection. A new realization is rising now, and it changes everything your soulmate thought they understood about happiness. They once believed the greatest moment would be finally knowing exactly how you felt. But now they are discovering something far more meaningful. Knowing your feelings was never the missing piece. Seeing your strength was. Watching you become peaceful without becoming distant, hopeful without becoming dependent, and open without putting your entire future on hold has shown them a version of you they cannot easily forget. Stay with this revelation, because the one thing they secretly needed was not simply your affection, it was the certainty that standing beside you would mean growing together, not holding each other back. And something inside them may now be saying, I cannot approach this the same way anymore. That thought matters. Because when perspective changes, old patterns stop feeling comfortable. Half-finished conversations may no longer feel sufficient. Waiting for the perfect moment may suddenly seem unnecessary. Your soulmate could be recognizing that if they genuinely value this connection, their actions eventually need to reflect that value. Not through dramatic promises. Not through impossible guarantees. Through something much stronger. Consistency. Imagine how different everything becomes when someone stops trying to predict the entire future and simply decides to become more intentional in the present. That may be the threshold your soulmate is approaching. But there is another surprise hidden inside their happiness. They are not only seeing you differently, they may be seeing themselves differently because of you. Your growth has quietly become a mirror. It asks them whether they are communicating honestly. Whether they are showing appreciation while opportunities still exist. Whether they are becoming the kind of person capable of building the connection they keep imagining. And suddenly, the question is no longer, will they wait for me? The question becomes, am I ready to meet them where they are going? Don't move away from this moment, because that question can transform passive feelings into meaningful choices. Your soulmate may also be realizing something beautifully simple: you never needed to become more impressive to deserve genuine connection. You needed to become more aligned with yourself. That was the shift. When you stopped trying to fit an imagined expectation and started standing confidently inside your own journey, the entire emotional landscape changed. You became easier to understand because you were no longer speaking through uncertainty. Your direction became visible. Your boundaries became clearer. Your presence became calmer. And that may be exactly why their happiness feels stronger now. They can finally see what a future beside you could actually feel like. Yet one final mystery remains. Because happiness is only the beginning of this transformation. Once someone recognizes what they truly value, another feeling follows: the desire not to take it for granted. Your soulmate may begin understanding that opportunities for genuine connection deserve participation. They cannot simply admire your growth from a distance forever. At some point, they must decide whether they want to become part of the next chapter. And perhaps that is the greatest secret behind everything. You finally did the one thing they needed most. You stopped trying to become the answer to their life, and started becoming the author of your own. Now they are looking at the story you are creating and wondering something they may never have wondered this seriously before. Is there still a place in that future for me? The answer will not be written by destiny alone. It will be written by what both of you choose next. Then, almost without warning, the entire meaning of this connection begins to reverse. Your soulmate may have once assumed that you would always be the one wondering, waiting, or trying to understand what came next. But something has changed. Now they may be the one looking toward the future with questions they cannot easily dismiss. Not anxious questions. Deeper ones. What if this connection was never asking me to have every answer? What if it was asking me to become ready for something real? That realization carries a different kind of happiness, because suddenly they are no longer trying to solve you. They are beginning to understand. Just when the picture seems complete, another truth begins glowing at the edge of everything your soulmate has realized. They may finally understand why this new happiness feels so unfamiliar. For once, they are not imagining a connection built around uncertainty. They are imagining one built around discovery. There is something ahead neither of you has experienced yet. A version of this story where conversations feel clearer, intentions become visible, and neither person has to decode every silence. What if the greatest change was never about getting closer immediately? What if it was about becoming capable of meeting each other differently when the moment arrives? Hold on to that thought, because it opens a door we haven't explored yet. Your soulmate may now be recognizing that you gave them something incredibly rare. Permission to reveal themselves naturally. They didn't need another grand declaration. They secretly needed to know whether they could show you their unfinished side, the dreams still taking shape, the questions they haven't answered, the ambitions they haven't fully spoken aloud, and still be respected as an individual. Your recent growth answered that question without words. You demonstrated that caring about someone doesn't mean controlling their timeline. And when a person feels understood rather than managed, something remarkable can happen. They become more willing to communicate what they genuinely think, hope, and want. But don't skip this next detail, because here the direction changes again. Your soulmate may be thinking beyond the connection itself. They may be imagining the person they want to become in the months and years ahead. And unexpectedly, thoughts of you keep appearing beside that vision. Not as someone completing what is missing, but as someone whose presence could add meaning to a life already being built. That distinction is enormous. Healthy connection isn't two incomplete stories desperately trying to become one. It is two developing stories discovering whether their next pages can complement each other. And suddenly, the little things become important. How would you encourage each other's ambitions? How would you handle differences without turning them into battles? Could laughter survive ordinary days? Could curiosity remain when the mystery disappears? Could both of you continue becoming more yourselves while growing closer? These may sound like simple questions, but they reveal something much bigger. Your soulmate isn't only imagining the exciting beginning anymore. They may be considering what makes something meaningful last. Now comes the unexpected revelation. The one thing they secretly needed wasn't an answer from you. It was a new possibility of what us could mean. Not possession. Not endless waiting. Not one person carrying the entire connection. A partnership where both people continue evolving. That possibility may explain why their happiness feels different now. It isn't simply excitement about being wanted. It is the discovery that closeness doesn't have to cost freedom. They can choose you and still remain themselves. You can care for them and still continue your own journey. And before you move on, remember this: your greatest power in this story is not predicting what your soulmate will do next. It is continuing to become someone whose future remains meaningful regardless of another person's decision. Because something extraordinary happens when two people understand that. They stop asking, "Who needs whom?" They begin asking a far more important question. What could we create if we both freely chose to be here? And your soulmate may finally be ready to discover that answer.